I'm Kirby. I've been coming to Creative Mornings for about 3 years now, and it's been a quiet little goal of mine to talk at Creative Mornings since my very first one. So this is really just a dream come true. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so grateful for all of you for coming out. I wanted to start today with having everyone just close their eyes and think about some things that they're grateful for. So maybe it's a person, maybe it's the weather. I love this weather. We get sun all the time in LA. I'm not about it. I like this. Or maybe it's free breakfast. So whatever it is, just close your eyes and think on that for a second. Awesome. Thanks. I try and do that every morning right when I wake up, just start my day on a note of gratitude. So that whatever comes my way, I can reflect on that and get back on a positive track. It was also a nice little second to just chill out because I am super nervous. So today's theme is symmetry, and the literal definition of symmetry is anything that has two mirror image parts around an axis. But I want to talk about it less in the literal way and more in the metaphorical way that it's applied to my life and career path thus far. So let's start with a little bit of time travel. Let's go back to September 17th of 2013. I'm 21 and a junior at the University of Oklahoma. I'm at a meeting of the Pre-Physicians Assistant Club, and there's a grad student telling us what our options are if we don't get into PA school. I'm fighting back my third panic attack of the day. Not getting into PA school was not part of my plan. It didn't fit this clean, perfect, step-by-step mirror image of the path of least resistance that I expected of myself. See, I really like when things are perfect and symmetrical. This translates a lot into the work that I make. You can see it in a lot of the images that I shoot and how I edit them to really amplify this balanced feeling. But this tendency towards symmetry can be incredibly limiting and confining, whether that's in our art or in our personal lives. This might come as a surprise, but as a film and music photographer, I don't get to use my medical sciences degree that often. I know. But that grad student said something to us in that pre-PA meeting that I go back to a lot. She said, "Nobody's paths are the same." It's simple. You probably heard it before. And yet I fought that fact. I fought it and I fought it and I fought it until my sanity and ultimately my life depended on me giving it up entirely. That winter, I went on a medical brigade to Ghana. And it was there that I realized I couldn't keep walking down this path that didn't belong to me. I wasn't elbowing the other med students at the chance to give vaccines. I just wanted to walk around the community and meet everyone I could and document their story with my little film camera. When I got back to school, I cut my hours way back. I sought therapy, thank goodness. And I added a film and video studies minor onto my curriculum. And by my last semester, my senior year, I was in a full schedule of film theory and video production classes. So at that point, my path was beginning to look a lot like this. Not very clean or symmetrical, but already that anxiety and dread and fear that had been drowning me was subsiding to a level that I could manage. And from there, the path just got weirder and more crooked. I graduated and moved back to Houston. I became a part-time substitute teacher. I started freelancing for my friends' production companies, and I got on the crew of every reality TV show that came through Houston at the time. And I also started coming to Creative Mornings, so I guess that part's not so weird or crooked. But at the end of all these productions, I was left with a feeling of confusion and burnout. I wasn't getting any closer to a clear idea of what I wanted to be doing on set, whether it was directing or cinematography or editing or camera operating. And that was really disheartening. I had set this path that I had on such an asymmetrical turn, and it still didn't feel right. So in these breaks in production, when I was feeling so burnt out, I would dive back into my very first passion, which was photography. And I say back into because it was there from the very beginning. I got my first digital camera when I was in middle school, much to my friends' dismay, because I have the archive of all the really embarrassing photos now. And then in high school, I got into yearbook and newspaper. And it's absolutely as nerdy as it sounds, but yearbook camp became my favorite weekend all summer. That first year at yearbook camp, I took the photography workshop, and I won the best photo story for the beginner division and the Ansel Adams Award for best photographer out of everyone at camp. And when I got back to school, I would do the normal photojournalistic type stuff that was needed for the book and the paper, but on the side, I started to explore more expressive avenues. I started to dive into self-portraiture. I got a little Canon T2i and a little plastic 50mm lens, and I just started shooting myself in my bedroom, if it will turn. And I can't understate how lucky I was that I had a lot of amazing teachers that saw what I was making on the side and pushed me to submit to our literary magazine and to statewide art competitions, and it really showed me that there was value to what I was making. The summer before my senior year in high school, I got this opportunity to go to Stanford University as part of a high school summer college program, and it was there that I got to take my first formal photography class, under the stipulation that I also take a class to prepare me for a career in medicine. So I took black and white film photography and human physiology. In those days, stepping out of the dark room, blinking from the change in light, and smelling like Fixer were my absolute favorite days that summer. But I loved my human physiology class too, I can't deny it. I love science. It's fascinated me for as long as I can remember, and I'm really good at it. So when I was really little, like really, really little, ER was my favorite TV show. Probably not appropriate for like, I don't know, a 3-year-old, but it's okay. And instead of playing house or school like my friends, I played doctor. And so my parents, really well-intentioned, they pushed me to pursue that. There was a lot of well-intentioned priming involved in my upbringing, like so many of us have had. You know the kind, like go to school, get good grades, get your degree, be a doctor, be successful. And then as I got more into photography, that kind of shifted over to things like photography is your hobby, but medicine will be your profession. And I'm sure all of you have heard this one. Don't make your passion your profession because you'll grow to hate it. So that's what I intended to do. Photography was going to stay my hobby, and I was going to make medicine my profession. And even as I shifted away from medicine, I still didn't pursue photography because I was still afraid that I was going to grow to hate it. So that's why I went into film and video stuff, because I love a good movie, y'all. And I had some teachers that were really influential that did film and video stuff too. So I thought that that was a really good option. But like I said, in those gaps in production, I would get really burnt out. So I would go back to photography. I started working part-time at a rental studio, and I met every photographer that walked through those doors, and I built friendships with them and mentorships. And from them, I would take little bits of wisdom and knowledge and try to apply that to my life and what I was trying to do within photography. So that's really how I got back into photography after a very roundabout path to getting there. But I get probably the most questions about how I got into music specifically, so I kind of wanted to dive into that as well. And honestly, it begins with a really embarrassing obsession with Fall Out Boy. When I was 14, my mom drove me all the way to Austin to see them in concert, and after that, I just went to as many concerts and festivals as possible. And that was awesome, but it also got really expensive, and your girl was a part-time substitute teacher for a while. So I had to find out a way to get into shows for free. And really, I wasn't even considering music photography as an option. It seemed like a pipe dream, and I won't lie, from time to time, it still does. But there was this one time I was in Dallas. It was November of 2015. I was in Dallas shooting a wedding with my friend's production company when I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw one of those bands that I was really into during the Fall Out Boy phase post a contest. The gist of it was you would email them with your best photos, and they would pick one person for each tour date to shoot that city. I had never shot a concert before, but I pulled together some images and I sent it over. The next day, I had an email in my inbox saying that I'd won. So I went to Warehouse Live with my little T2i that I bought when I was 15 years old, and I shot the concert, and I pulled an all-nighter, editing all the photos, and I loved every second of it. I was high from it. It was a feeling I had never gotten during the endless hours I spent dissecting my cadaver and anatomy, or when I was getting to observe emergency brain surgery right in the OR. It was a feeling that I never had, and so I knew that I needed to pursue that. The timing could not have been better because the very next month was Day for Night Festival, the very first Day for Night Festival here in town. And I had no intention of going. Again, I could not support this habit of going to every concert and festival that I wanted to go to. But then I saw that they were posting a social media contest for free VIP tickets, and I won that. So I thought that I was the luckiest music lover in the world. First the Lights concert, and then Day for Night. But when I showed up the first day, I started to realize maybe I wasn't as lucky as the festival team was resourceful. Because when I got there, instead of handing me a VIP wristband, they gave me a press pass. Now, this was a social media contest, and at the time, my social media was a flood of all those concert photos. So day 2, I brought my camera gear, and I shot every artist I could, and I edited them, and I started posting them, and the festival picked them up and started posting them as well. After that, I knew that this was what I wanted to do, for sure. I had a festival and a concert under my belt, and I was ready to attack music photography for real. And I had no idea what the hell to do. So I got in touch with as many music photographers as I could, and I hated what they told me. Because once again, none of their paths were the same. I just wanted a clear instruction manual on what to do. And nobody could give it to me. I just wanted it to be a mirror image of like exactly what I need to do to get to where I wanted to be. And nobody could tell me that. But there was one common piece of advice among all of them. So my next step was to dive into the local music industry. I sent out so many emails. Me and the cold email, we're in a very committed relationship. We're still going strong today. But I didn't get many replies, and that was really frustrating. And if I did get a reply, it was something along the lines of, we already have a photographer, you can try again later, but there are no promises, thanks. But there was one venue that bit. There was a venue that was so new, they hadn't even opened their doors to have a concert, to be able to have a photographer shoot it. It was White Oak Music Hall. Yeah. So we set up a meeting. I got to tour the venue before it was even completed. They hired me to shoot their grand opening weekend. And from there, I sort of became an in-house photographer for them. And that time was really invaluable. It allowed me to go shoot any show I wanted for free. And I got to really practice and learn what I was doing and totally mess up and blow it and then come back the next night and figure it out again. I was able to build a portfolio, and from that portfolio, I was able to get a few more leads. I was able to start shooting for another press outlet and for another promotion company. And from there, my footprint on Houston music scene really began to expand. But at the time, and unfortunately, this is still the case, none of these gigs were paying. Most music photography gigs don't pay. Really unfortunate, and that needs to change. But because none of these gigs were paying, I was still substitute teaching, and I was still working for my friends' production companies, and I was still working at all of those shitty reality TV shows. There were days that I would work 12 to 16 hours on set, run home, get my gear, run back into town, shoot the concert, go back home, edit until about 3 a.m., pass out for a couple hours, and then wake up to be on set by 6 a.m. to do it all over again. It was exhausting, and it was not sustainable, and I was a crab and a terrible person to like my entire family and all my friends because I was cranky all the time. But I didn't know what my next steps were. And that brings me to the next thing that I hope you guys can take home from this. And that is that the work is in the waiting. Sometimes it doesn't matter how badly we want something or how ready we think we are for something. The opportunity has to be there for us to take it. And timing is a bitch. Sometimes all we can do is wait, and there is very real work in that waiting. So yeah, I didn't know what my next steps were. All I knew was that I was meeting with all my mentors and photographers. I was going to workshops. I was spending hours teaching myself how to market myself and brand myself and advertise. And I was working my ass off. And I didn't know what to do next. Then in August of 2017, I was scrolling through Instagram this time. And one of my favorite film and music photographers had posted that he was looking for interns. I applied, and by November, I was on the West Coast. I was 25 years old and suddenly in LA in an unpaid internship. I never even stepped foot in Southern California. And I thought, this will be a gold mine of opportunities and connections. And it wasn't. But I'm so glad I stuck it out, because trust me, every single day I wondered if I should bail. But I'm so glad I stuck it out, because I learned so much, and that move pushed me so far out of my comfort zone that it forced me to create in a way that's totally different from anything I'd ever made before. Things got a little bit weird. Things got a lot less symmetrical, and they got a lot less perfect, which is really what I needed. So after my internship ended, I just continued to build on that foundation that I laid in Houston. I took those little bits of wisdom and knowledge from all the amazing photographers that went out of their time to mentor me. And I kept sending emails, and I kept getting rejected, and there was lots of waiting. But it's in those moments when the waiting becomes almost too unbearable that the biggest opportunities have fallen in my lap. So sometimes we just have to be patient and really stick it out and wait. Maybe photography was supposed to be my path all along, and I just spent so much energy trying to divert it. Or maybe it's just part of my path, and tomorrow I'll wake up and decide that I do want to go to PA school and I'll apply. But that's not actually going to happen. My GRE scores have expired, and I'm trying to never, ever take that heinous test again. But either way, I can't really hate on my path, because either way, I'm here right now. And I know that I'll continue to grow if I can put in the work and just be patient, because there is so much work in the waiting. I wish there was a clear-cut instruction manual for us, but in our creative fields, there just isn't. Because these creative careers are not safe, tame, symmetrical beasts. They are wild and unruly and messy. But my path is not going to look like your path, and your path is not going to look like their path, because nobody's paths are the same. Nobody's paths are symmetrical. Thank you.